all the information that you want, have the ability to ask questions, clarify any concerns that you have, or so that you can make the comment that you want to make, regardless of what it is. What we've got is a PowerPoint that we're going to give to you. Hopefully that'll answer a bunch of your questions, but whatever is left over, as we go through it, you'll have the opportunity to ask questions so you don't forget what they are. So anyway, that's kind of the plan for this evening. I'll take just a minute and introduce the FWP folks that are here, and then just talk a little bit about how we'll try to get around. I guess I'll start. Actually, I'll start with Mike. This is Mike Thompson, Mike's Regional Wildlife Manager, and then we'll just start. Vivica is in the back. Vivica Crowder, she's our Information Officer. Craig Jordan, Craig's a biologist in Bitterroot. Vicki Edwards, biologist around Missoula. Ray Vinke is out of Phillipsburg. Jay Colby has the Blackfoot. And Trevor's our pilot. So he knows where everything's at. So he gets to see everything. So anyway, that's our folks that are here. We'll stick around and answer your questions. What we've got, like I said, this is not formal comment tonight. We've got a process set up for that. We've got two forms that are out back, or out in the front, I guess, the back of this, or very back of this room, out the door. One's for lions, one's for wolf. And there's two ways you can do this. You can fill this out and give it to us, or you can go online if you'd rather do it that way, and that address is on here, and submit your comment that way. We're going to kind of keep some general, as you make comments, we're going to kind of keep some tabs on what your concerns are, just so we have kind of a running list of that. But we want you to make the comments, and again, our whole goal tonight is to have a discussion with you to help inform you in whatever aspect it is that you want to get better informed on prior to making these comments, because it's really important. We're trying to achieve a balance in wildlife management right now. It's probably one of the most dynamic times ever in wildlife management. We've got growing predator populations. We've got some declining ungulate populations. It's not too late to turn things around, but we need to do it quick. And that's kind of where we're at. So Mike's got the presentation. I'll turn this over to him. Any questions? I forgot to introduce myself earlier too, sorry. I'm Matt Long, I'm the Regional Supervisor here in Missoula for West Central Montana, Region 2. So with that, any quick questions of me to get started? Yes.
I could jump right in, but I'm no one to do that. Where are the feds right now on this? Totally, not little castle. I mean, totally. Where the heck are you guys? They got you by the throat, or where?
I wouldn't say they have us by the throat, but they're setting out on a limb watching what we do. For 5 years after delisting, the feds monitor what those populations do, and if the populations should crash of a listed species, once a species is delisted, then they have the ability to relist without very much effort. But I don't think that's going to be a problem. I'm not worried about a crash in the population unless we lose enough prey base that we can't support predators. At that point in time, then I'm worried. But like I said, we're still in we have a window here that I think we can kind of move forward to get things turned around, but we need to get things done quick. So they're watching, but I wouldn't say they had us by the neck or anything like that.
Where are they watching from? Montana or back there in D.C.?
All of it. They're up a big tree. Anything else for you? Okay, thanks. You'll have opportunity to ask questions as I go.
Gets all the headlines on this issue of carnivores and prey, and why not? And there's a predator, by the way, that we got to get off the landscape and let these poor calves alone. But But the imbalance of carnivores and prey is a lot more extreme in some other areas than it is in the Bitterroot. It just doesn't get it hasn't attracted the publicity because we don't have a Lower Clark Fork elk study going on. But if we did, these would be, I guess, four of the last of the 400. This is the Burdett Lupin elk herd, actually nearby the Burdett Lupin elk herd. A picture that Vicki Edwards took this spring during her spring aerial surveys. And some of you folks are familiar with that elk population, and it's one that has been studied pretty regularly at the University of Montana. And it used to be up over 400 that we could count, probably more than that on the ground. And her last count, not shown on the graph here, was around 50, I think, wasn't it?
68.
60, 58, 60?
68 this year and 64 last year.
Okay, so about the same as last year. So major decline in the Burdett Lupin elk herd, and that population will probably not come back to the levels that we saw before, and we're going to talk about that in a second. It has to do with, what we're saying is that where there's a high wolf-elk ratio, there is a much greater risk that prey population is going to be overwhelmed by predation, and that's something we have to correct. Balance we've been talking about, and that would be out of balance. So you see, like in the upper Clark Fork east of Missoula, that's an area where there's a low wolf-elk ratio, so there's relatively few wolves. There's wolves all right, but why are there relatively few? Well, it's private land, they get into trouble and they get removed in a depredation. Ecological relationships are well documented in North America. This is not the first time around the block. They've been looking at this stuff in Canada for some time, in Alaska, and Idaho's done some real pioneering research, and now we've got some research of our own that's just come together in the last year. And so we're in a really good place right now to understand what's going on and be able to predict, and then to be able to respond with management that is not, you know, we hear the term extermination, we hear the term predator control. We're in a position to manage. That's the difference. Something predicted toward a predictable outcome. Anybody remember hunters? We do. And hunters are carnivores too. And they're right up at the top of the pyramid. And so we're looking for all carnivores to sacrifice, and by golly, they have. Hunters have been the first ones to come forward and say, hey, we got to take care of these populations. I mean, they really have. We hear it every time we go around and ask folks. And so in case anybody isn't aware of this, there is not antlerless deer and elk hunting in most of Region 2. You've got to get east of Missoula to run into much of that these days, other than whitetails in the bottoms. So for the majority of Region 2, that opportunity's gone away. We used to have, and we still do, have opportunities for youth to hunt cow elk on their general license. Great way to get kids hooked on hunting and get them recruited into the family tradition. And we've had to quit those hunts, and local communities have supported that. It's the last thing they want to give up, but we've had to do that because the resource can't support it in some areas. And we've even got permit-only hunting for bull elk, both sides of the Bitterroot now. In fact, I thought you couldn't hear me there for a minute. So there are only 25 permits for bull elk in the West Fork of the Bitterroot and 5 for cows. That 30 people can hunt elk in the West Fork of the Bitterroot, period. Where there used to be 1,500, 2,000, 2,500 people would hunt. That doesn't happen in Montana. And that tells you that something's out of balance. And the reason that we've backed off on that hunting is not that we couldn't do a little bit more right now, but what we're doing is preventing the crash that hasn't happened yet. And all the handwriting is on the wall with low calf survival. And so what we're trying to do is prevent that crash. Hats off to Craig Jordan and folks in the Valley County Fish and Wildlife Association who have understood and embraced that we've got to be proactive. And so when we get a little bit of an advantage back on the carnivore to elk ratio, we're going to have enough hooves on the ground to be able to take advantage of it. So we're looking forward to making a positive change in a preventative fashion here. So all carnivores, if we can moderate, and we'll get the prey back, and then we should see a recovery. And what we hope to do is restore a lot of these hunting opportunities that we've sacrificed to this point. So we're not satisfied. We're not satisfied with the hunting opportunity situation that we have today. Are we going to have a zillion hunters out on general licenses shooting does and cows? No, probably not. But are we going to have some cow tags, and we're going to have youth hunts, and we're going to hunt bulls and bucks on the general tag? We better. That's what we're looking at. And we hope that overall carnivore densities will, and a reduction of that will help moderate and reduce livestock depredations, just to reduce that background level of carnivore population sizes will help with depredations. And by doing that, it earns a better place and a bigger place on private land and public land for all of these populations. People just look for acceptance of their different values and their different economic situations. And if we can share that, we can gain more tolerance for these critters than if we try to run them down each other's throats. Well, just mention real quickly before we get into the specific lion and wolf proposals that we've got here, just mention that for black bears, the commission and the department have already enacted a longer spring season for black bear. So we expect more black bear harvest. We've got research that indicates that black bears can stand more harvest. And we have a way to monitor to make sure they don't overdo it. Black bears, in some places, are pretty hard on elk calves. So far, not so in the West Fork of Bear River and the East Fork, but we'll see over time. But that's all I'm going to say about black bears, unless you want to talk about it afterwards. I think the thing that we're here for mostly, two things that we have to accomplish, lion and wolf. And this part will go pretty quick once I get out of this introduction. That was a long introduction. So we would start with lion, but before we do, I guess we'd ask if on